So one of the big movies that I really loved and that my kids really loved, I have 3 kids, by the way.
Okay.
One of the movies that I really enjoyed watching with them was Coco.
Oh yeah.
And Coco has a lot of could be adult theme to it. If you really look at it, there's a lot of what could be adult theme. So I definitely looked at Coco and thought that could definitely be taken into a rated R type of scenario. If the kid weren't so young per se, maybe if you age the kid a bit, age Coco, maybe to 16, 17 years old instead of what he's like 10 or 11 in the movie. So if you age him to around 16, 17, I think with how the story plays out of his supposed grandpa, being this famous musician and everything, it would show a lot more drug type of stuff going on, things of that nature. And so when you offered this concept up, I definitely looked at Coco as a movie that could possibly be R-rated. I think it'd be even cooler if it was a live action version, like an R-rated live action version of Coco, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I caught the end of Coco. I need to go rewatch it. But from my family was watching it, my wife and my kids were watching it, and I got home and caught the end of it, and I'm like, this really, really seems really good. Tear jerkish, but all that from what I caught of it, and I need to watch the whole thing in general. But like you could always tell the life and death stuff, all that definitely has some deeper themes too that you could go with, people's regrets, like you said, drug addiction, different stuff like that could happen, that could easily be more adult themed and everything.
Just from a musician standpoint, like with the way that at the beginning of the movie it shows his grandpa, it turns out not to really be his grandpa at the end and whatnot, but who he thinks is his grandpa, it shows him like going through his musical career and everything, and scenes like that, if it were like a rated R thing, it'd be crazy. It'd be like some Motley Crue type of stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can be kind of a stereotype or whatever, but like the montage, like, oh, what did this guy do in the 80s?
Yeah.
The typical, you got your cocaine years, you're on the road, sort of.
No,
stuff going on too.
I absolutely I love that movie as a movie, especially coming from Hispanic heritage myself. I felt like that movie was really cool, but the backgrounds of it could definitely have those rated R themes if it was made into like a live action. I totally think it could have those rated R type of themes to it.
I never watched Coco. There was another similar movie that came out about the same time. I think it was called like The Book of Life.
Book of Life by Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. And so I think what do they? It's the Day of the Dead.
Right.
What is the actual name for it? Because there's a comic book that I like to read. It's more of an independent comic called Lady Mechanica, and there was an arc that they did where it was of that holiday. And well, what Lady Mechanica is it's steampunk, and she's a cyborg, but she's an investigator. So she had to go down to Mexico, and there was some kind of deal around the Day of the Dead she had to investigate. But either of you know the name of that? What's it?
It translates pretty straight there, Alan. It's just Dia de los Muertos.
There you go.
So in the Book of Life, it's quite different than Coco, in the way that Coco is like searching for something, and he ends up going into the afterlife, basically. In the movie Coco, he ends up going and somehow finding himself in the afterlife. Whereas the Book of Life is they're going through these 3 different worlds of the actual like Day of the Dead, right? So they've got like the underworld of it, they've got the main world, and then they've got like the celebration. So it's similar in a way, but Guillermo del Toro did a really great job with Book of Life. The animation's amazing. I actually just watched it the other night. The animation's amazing.
It's like it actually looks like everybody's made out of wood.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's really cool though. It's really cool how they made it, you know, and same with Coco, you know, the animation in Coco is amazing. With Pixar, of course, they always do amazing.
Right.
But the vibrance and everything in both the movies, it's just so vibrant, and it really gives off that kind of like Hispanic culture, and it's pretty neat. I recommend watching both movies for sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the Book of Dead, but Book of Life. But I saw it on there, and it's like, oh, just the other day, and thought I still need to watch that in Coco.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus.
That also has a lot of Book of Life has a lot of music in there as well. It has a lot of pop songs or top 40 songs in it that they play. Now, okay, so Kyle, I guess go ahead and start with what your story would be, and then see if we can't
or was it a
spinball
generalization?
Yeah. So I would kind of, I mean, I would kind of start based off of what, and I actually have a short story similar to it, which is kind of funny. So in my story itself, I would say that Coco is like the 16-year-old kid, right? 16, 17, kind of struggling to find his identity. He wants to be this musician, but at the same time, his parents want him to work in the family business as a carpenter, right? And this was actually kind of a story that I wrote about 12 years ago, where it's a coming of age story. And so in my rendition, Coco is kind of coming of age. Like, he wants to figure out who he is. He wants to be a musician because as far as he knows, his grandfather was a famous musician. And that's what he thinks, or what he knows that his grandfather was. But all of his family pushes that away because of what his grandfather went through. So Coco struggles with this basically, and gets mixed in kind of with the wrong crowds, starts hanging out with the wrong people, you know, meets with the skeleton guy in Coco, which if you guys haven't seen it, you know, the skeleton guy ends up like being his like uncle or whatnot. Meets up with skeleton guy, but in my rendition, the skeleton guy is like this bad guy, right? Like, does drugs, drinks, all that. Shows this to Coco. Coco gets mixed up in it with him. But at the same time, he's starting to play music. He's starting to get into it. He's kind of going against what his parents want. You know, he's going against what his parents want him to do, and he's kind of taking control of his own self and saying, you know what, this is what I want to do. So from there, he starts this journey on the musical path. But along the way, he ends up finding this realm that takes him to the underworld of what was it?
Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah.
He ends up finding a realm to where he goes to basically meet his dead grandfather, the musician. So kind of the same thing as the movie, but he goes to meet that, but he sees a really, really dark side of it, right? Like, just a really dark side of things. So then from that point, he kind of starts questioning, like, is this something that I really want? Or, you know, can I do this, but not go that same path, right? Can I be this musician that my grandfather was and make a name for myself, but not go down the same negative path that he did?
It's
so
always, I mean, it kind of becomes a trope, but it's also like, always seems like it's somewhat of a rite of passage. I mean, obviously life on the road and stuff makes you do that, trying to stay up. But it always seems like there's an element of you have to live some of that. I mean, any kind of art, really. You almost have to live it and experience the bad stuff and the rough edges to really make it real. And walking that line and stuff without crossing it can be suppose that's why they called Walk the Line the Johnny Cash show, like Walk the
Yeah.
Line. You know, but
I mean,
but that really plays off with what you're saying so far.
yeah, so I mean, I guess to start, that would be where I would be at is, you know, he kind of starts off in this position where he's trying to figure his life out. He gets his friend's a musician. They start playing together, all that. The friend is the same type of guy in the movie that he hangs out with, you know, but different in the version of
Just
mine. It's not an uncle factor.
a notch
it's more
above. Yeah.
right. So they're more friends. They start playing together, everything like that. And then he ends up getting into the club scenes and, you know, kind of going down this darker path of things, just like the movie Coco, you know, where he gets into it and he ends up finding the darker path in the movie. So in my rated R version, it would be kind of the same way, just more dark, obviously.
Yeah. More
I like-
adult themed and
I like the
Yeah.
idea. I mean, obviously, I like all of that, but I like the idea of like when you said kind of slip into kind of like the underworld or whatever.
Right.
And like I love like adventures and like treks, you know, or journeys. And so yeah, if he would slipped into the underworld and kind of go through and just explore that. I mean, obviously with some music in there as well.